How do you hold the world of processing emotion, but yet not getting stuck in that emotion?
Yeah. And here's the key to it all, right? And that's what everything is based on and what I teach are the three M's. But this is like a lifelong journey of knowledge and wisdom is the Tao, the universe. That's how I started everything. And so let me take this time to very quickly remind us all, or maybe explain to those who've never heard of such a thing, that the Tao is the universe, literally what we live in. It has nothing to do with religion, politics, gender, ethnicity, age. As I said before, at the core of everything. And from the universe, if anyone is familiar with the Tao or the Tao Te Ching, which is one of the most ancient books, which you don't have to be, but ultimately first came the universe and then came yin and yang. At this point, almost everyone knows what yin and yang is. And if you do not, it's like looks like the fish. It's the black and the white. Well, what this principle, that's why I'm saying I'm going to do this very like Eastern medicine philosophy, all the things in 2 minutes, if that, is this dichotomy. Everything in life is that dichotomy, which means everything in life is a balance. And we have to understand that. And it can be scary if you're not used to that, right? Meaning, literally from looking around in nature, yin and yang is day and night, right? Day turns into night, night turns into day. Even in places where, it stays light until maybe 24 hours, the nature, the energy of everything is night and day, right? We have masculine and feminine energies. We have loud and soft. We cannot understand happiness unless we know sadness, right? We do not understand success unless we know failure. If you look at everything in life, it is constantly a balance. And when we start to embody that more, that is literally what living meditation, the book I wrote, equals the philosophy that's been passed down is all about. It's constantly, every moment we come across, every single circumstance, seriously, is a balance, and it changes constantly. So we can live by certain principles, certain ways that we go about our daily life, of course, but it actually empowers us a lot to remember that every situation is going to be different. And sometimes, in fact, a lot of the time, when people have a lot of anxiety, panic, it can even turn into depression, fatigue, all of these kind of imbalanced mental equals physical states, it's because we're so overwhelmed, we don't know how to balance. You can just break it down to that, which is very interesting, right? And so if we look at life that way, whether it comes to the food that we eat, whether it comes to the way that we, relate to others, it's always about that. And so if we think of it that way, I mean, that's the key to it all. So I know that was a lot, but as I heard you saying before, it really is that balance. Tell me, Josh, what are your thoughts on what I just said?
You're touching the heart of everybody who's watching and listening because it's a balancing act, right? And I think we get caught up in personal development, or at least I had in the past, where I need to achieve balance, as if balance is some finite thing.
Yes,
But
there's
it's
no such
not.
thing, everyone. Let me be the first to tell you.
It's
Every moment
absolutely
is.
not,
And
right?
every time you do, which could happen thousands of times, maybe more a day, be very grateful because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing on that path.
We just spent a month in Maui, so shout out to 10 years of work that got us there. But I was able to take that time because I've worked so hard, and whether it's Native American wisdom, whether it's the ancient Oriental wisdom, our life goes through seasons. And so what I want to share and what I want to get your opinion on is just living life from a template. We find that people get stuck in the phase of listening to podcasts and gathering information, but there's no real understanding of the seasons of life. So in the Native American wisdom, they have the medicine wheel, right? With the winter and the fall and the summer and the spring, north, northeast, west, and south. How does that relate to the wisdom of Chinese medicine and the Oriental medicine?
I can't wait one day because right now I am not prioritizing my own studies per se, but it is part of my everyday reflection. One of my favorite things is looking at all of the ancient practices, let's call them, from all over the world. And my favorite, and religions for that matter, we're certainly not going to get on that topic, but in anything that is important to our human life that has existed, you see so many similarities, Josh. I look around, and one of the things personally, my entire life that is a little confusing to me is how quickly some, and no judgment, it is the way we all, we each operate differently, but how quickly so many jump to the differences between things, where naturally I am always drawn to the similarities of where everything comes from. And it gives me a huge sense of security in my life, which is incredibly important, mentally, physically, spiritually. And so, what you're describing with the shaman and the native, kind of indigenous, Native American, whatever the ancient people, Same thing in Eastern medicine. We have the seasons as well. Are you kidding? We have it operates in that manner, and that's literally how we look at the body. The organ systems are connected to the seasons and the time and the 5 elements, and that's how much our ancient healers, practitioners, doctors, whatever you want to call them, because I promise you, thousands upon thousands of years ago, people weren't getting their doctorates and weren't sitting in an office. They all looked at nature to understand the human mind and body. Because what else? They had to survive, right? Even my father learned, which now I'm entering this conversation, in the mountains of East Asia, which I do tell this part of, my story, his story in the book, is he learned in the mountains of Asia from 7 to 14. 7 years old. Like my youngest boy is now 7. It even blows my mind. That's where he learned. So his learning is much different than my learning. And here he came all the way from the mountains of Korea to America, married my mom, who is American, and here I am. And we would discuss that sometimes. His challenges were different than ours. But what I wanted to go back to is even our ancient practitioners, right? The people who first started understanding how to take care of ourselves as human beings. All they had was to look around. All they had was plant medicine. All they had was to understand, wait a second, just as the rivers flow, the trees grow, I look around me, is that how my own body works? And that's how Eastern medicine was built. And I know all the ancient forms of medicine, which lead to modern medicine, how they have all come about, right? And so it's like all about flow and making sure our organ systems work. And that could be a whole other podcast. But yes, it's very vital to understand that.
So then specifically, I guess my curiosity is sparked about the correlation between the Native American medicine wheel, and you mentioned the organs and the seasons. What are some of the seasons that are associated with the organs in Chinese medicine?
Well, we can get into the detail of that. And then I feel like sometimes that can be, let's put it this way. One of the things that I think is the most helpful for anyone listening right now is, for example, during the spring, and you'll find this even in our modern culture, like during the spring is a time of detoxification. Right? It's the time of new life. We start to detoxify ourselves. So like the liver is involved a lot in Eastern medicine. That's why I don't want to go too far into this because it can be very interesting, but also confusing. The liver and gallbladder are paired. So that's a time when you're detoxing and paying attention. You want to really pay attention to those organ systems. But I love, one of my favorite things to teach, while I can go into the detail of everything, is really the practical application, especially to so many who have never heard of it before, or who have. And this is another way, a simplistic but incredibly effective way of looking at things, is that, during the summer months, it's more warm. And so you eat accordingly.
Don't go anywhere. Click the link on the screen. If you love that clip that you just watched, you're gonna absolutely love this full-length video. You just have to tap the little icon on the screen. While you're at it, subscribe.